Today we have a touch bar that's running ridiculously slow. The first issue is typically a sensor issue. Now, we used to be able to run something called the Apple Service Diagnostic. The Apple Service Diagnostic would tell us which sensor failed. As a result of telling us which sensor failed, we would be able to go into the board and figure out which components we needed to replace. That is all but gone. Ever since the Retina models came into existence around 2015-16, those newer Retina models require that you run some test that connects to Apple servers. No longer is the software distributed. Apple realized that people are actually able to fix their own products if they're able to download the tool off of some website on the internet. Further, the internal diagnostics to the machine, when you used to hold down D and run the internal diagnostics, do not give any results anymore. So you cannot simply hold down the D key when you turn the computer on and have it tell you which sensor has failed. Now it will just tell you some error, and that error code will tell you, bring it to the Apple Store. No, you're not figuring out what the sensor failure is. So we're going to go over how it is we figure that out today. And Serendipity says, hi, Lewis. My name is not Lewis, it's Lewis. Get my name right. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to boot into my own operating system in order to run a program called Hardware Monitor. Even if the Apple diagnostic software is not going to tell me which sensor has failed, I can still try and figure out which sensor has failed by running some third-party program that will allow me to measure every sensor. And a great third-party one is called HW Monitor, which I'll link to in the description if I remember to at the end of the video, which, let's face it, I'll probably forget, but you'll bother me in the comments as usual. So what I do is I turn the computer on by touching this lame little touch bar button, and after I turn it on, I hold down the Option key. When I hold down the Option key, it asks me which drive I want to boot from. I'm not going to boot from the internal drive. Rather, I'm going to boot from the drive that I had sitting here a moment ago. God, mother flower. Do you have Hardware Monitor on your thing? Mother flower. All right. So as you can see here, I've plugged in my other drive, and now I have other drives to choose from. So I'm going to boot into my test operating system. And just to give you an idea of how painfully slow this is, I'm going to put my new, beautiful, fixed and repaired overhead camera. By fixed and repaired, I mean I bought another one on eBay because I gave up. We're going to zoom that in, and you should be able to see it booting. Now this boots painfully slow. All right, we're booting. Look, we got a cursor. As you guys can obviously tell, this is not the speed at which a modern 2016, 2018 MacBook should be booting off of a fairly modern SSD. This is a joke. So there is definitely a problem here, and it's probably related to a sensor. And as you can see, we have a beach ball. Look at that little beach ball. Wow. Much landscape. Okay, now can anybody tell me what it is they notice on screen, except for the loudmouth sitting next to me, what it is that appears to be wrong? It thinks that the heat pipe for the outgoing air and the airport proximity sensor is 129 Celsius. Just hit him. Just hit him. I'll turn the camera. I'll turn the camera.
What the my tweezers though? I'm just trying to do my goddamn job. Fuck.
You were asking for that one, man. Come on. What?
He has a pair of tweezers there too.
If he had a pair of tweezers, he wouldn't have to come in here and... Core 0 and 1 are missing. You are correct. This machine does cost over $1,300, and it is a dual core. Does Lewis pay his employees in tweezers? Beatings will continue until morale improves. I should probably buy some more tweezers. We're gonna, you know what? We're gonna take a short break here to buy some tweezers before the employees kill each other. My tweezers break because I scrape shit with them that I'm not supposed to scrape. I use them for stabbing boards and. No, I use it for stabbing and scraping and destroying. That's why my tweezers always get fucked up, which is why I always buy $5 cheap ass tweezers, which continues the cycle. I want you to pretend that you're not here but continue to do work. Can we do this? All right. I want you to essentially pretend that you're not here, but be doing work. Pretend this is a dream and everybody around you is fake. So as you can see, we've got 129 Celsius in airport proximity and heat pipe outgoing air. At the same time, we have the fan at 6,000 RPM. That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. If the fan was at 6,000 to 7,000 RPM, the temperature would not be 100 Celsius. Also, it doesn't make sense that the air is getting hotter as it's leaving the computer. We have 24 Celsius for incoming air, 128 Celsius for outgoing air. That type of gap is the type of gap that doesn't really make sense to me, especially when the CPU is 30 Celsius. How is it that the CPU is 30 Celsius, but the heat pipe is 128? Also, it's weird to me that airport proximity and heat pipe outgoing air, which are on different sides, are reading within 1 Celsius of each other. This tells me that those sensors are probably screwed up, and we need to figure out why that is and fix that. Which sensor is which? That's going to be the fun part. That's going to be the part that sucks. So airport proximity and outgoing heat pipe are our problems, right? So I'm going to open up the schematic in the board view. And which is which? A rural noun, a simple adjective. Fuck, that's killing me. So we have to find the sensor. Now, if we search for, let's say, air proximity, what do we get? If I search for proximity, I get thermal sensor B, CPU high peak detection, CPU proximity, memory proximity, CPU proximity, memory proximity, X100 proximity. So here's a good question. What the hell is X100 proximity? That was not in my list. Do you know what it is?
I don't know.
What's X100 proximity?
It's a schematic.
Incorrect. So there's a sensor over here.
Sensor of some sort.
Yeah, so what does this mean? X100 proximity. Now let's search for the word airport, because that was called an airport proximity sensor. So if I search for the word airport, what do I find? Literally nothing. So we have piccolo current sense. Now I'm not looking for current sense, I'm looking for temperature sense. So here we have CPU thermal sensor, CPU thermal sensor, CPU thermal sensor. And we also have to keep in mind it's 2 sensors that are measuring bad, so I would guess that it has to be 2 sensors that are on the same line or going to the same chip.
They are on the same line.
Okay, so here we have a hint. Here we have a hint. AP temp, access point, Wi-Fi thermal sensor. Well, here we go. This chip over here is most likely the airport proximity sensor. By the way, thank you very much, Apple, for using consistent naming from the diagnostics to the name of the sensor to the schematic. I really appreciate how you label something X100 proximity in the schematic and airport proximity in the computer.
You gotta think different, Louis.
Think fucking different, indeed. Think different. Always think different. Now, is one of the things that I'm going to want to look at. Now, I bet that this is not only messing with the Wi-Fi thermal sensor, I'm guessing that this is also going to connect to other sensors in the machine as well. So let's see. What else is this on? What else is this line on? So we're going to go back to a view that shows us more of everything. So that goes to a chip called U5860. Well, I wonder what U5860 is for. Let's find it. Rural noun, simple adjective. God damn it, that's stuck in my head. That Bo Burnham shit is stuck in my head. Look, airflow right. So airflow right, I'm guessing, is going to be like heat pipe right. So this is on the same line as this, which means that very likely U5820 or U5860 are bad. And as a result of them being bad, they're pulling down my line. So I'm going to want to look at those two. This is how we figure out why the machine is running slow. Which sensors are at fault? If there's more than one sensor at fault, what line are they on so that we can figure out if there is something in common between them, and as a result, pinpoint which chip it is exactly. So let's look inside the machine. And as Station 240 says, think profit. A rural noun, a simple adjective. A rural noun, a simple adjective. God damn it. One of the few good things to come from Boston. Bo Burnham. I'm going to get a better zoom lens for that overhead camera eventually. Sorry for the crap quality. So if you look, you can probably see this area looks a little blue compared to the other areas. So we're going to take a look at it in the microscope. A rural noun, a simple adjective. Grr. Damn you, Emma, for showing me that. Damn you, Emma. Just trying to introduce me to Bostonian culture. Oh yeah, you do have to unscrew it. Every year, Apple makes this shit worse and worse. First it was, okay, you can just remove your battery with a penny. Then it was, you can remove your battery if you can open the machine with Phillips screws. Then it was, you can you have to open the machine with a proprietary pentalobe screwdriver to get to your battery. Now it's you need to use a proprietary pentalobe screwdriver to get to your battery. And after that is done, then you still need yet another T5 screwdriver just to unplug it to keep the machine from corroding. And you have to pry open the lid, which is a pain in the ass on this model. My favorite is in the A1425, where they use a special screw for the battery that's not magnetic. So you can't, if you try to put it on a magnet to keep track of it, and good luck finding that screw. Now, just to be clear, if we look on the board view software, this chip over here, which is this one, is our sensor chip. So this is airflow right. This chip over here is for the right airflow. And that's also going to speak to this one, X100, which we've figured out is for the Wi-Fi sensor. Now, I'm going to guess that the stuff over here is not really that relevant, but that what's over here and closer to the chip that looks like it has lines going directly to the chip is relevant. So there's these capacitors, which I'm not really concerned about, but I am concerned about this resistor that's covered in soot, as well as that resistor that's also covered in soot. And they appear to be going to the chip. So let's see what those resistors are for. So that's actually a capacitor that's completely covered in soot. That's C5861. And that sits between the positive and the minus of RIO, which I'm guessing has something to do with the right heat pipe. And then we have R5860, which is, let's see, that is what's going to provide 3.3 volts of power to the sensor IC. So typically on any of these schematics, the voltage that the chip needs to turn on, like for example, like with my camera. See, this is my camera, this is my HDMI port, and this is my power plug. This power plug, I would call this the VDD or the VCC or the V-in pin. That's typically the pin where voltage is going to go in, just to keep things simple. And on the schematic, most of the time that on these machines, that's going to be represented by this little thing at the top. So sometimes it's going to say V+, sometimes it'll say VCC, sometimes it'll say VDD, sometimes it'll say V-in. But to keep things simple, this is where voltage is going to be going into the chip so that it could turn on and work. Now, our chip that's completely corroded over here, R5860, this thing that I could probably knock off the board with my tweezers, yep, see, just came right off, is what's standing between PP3V3SO and the chip itself. This is a 0 ohm resistor that's weighted to 1/20th of a watt. So most likely this is being used as a fuse so that if this chip goes bad, it doesn't wind up shutting down the whole machine. It'll just run ridiculously slow. So nice design there, Apple. It's just a little 0 ohm link. It has a 1/20th of a watt tolerance. So if you go over 1/20th of a watt, it'll blow. So let's see what happens if we just replace this and get the board to work again. I'm obviously not going to bother measuring the sensor. There's no point in measuring the resistor. There's no point in measuring it when it looks like that. I have my measurement. It was taken with my eyes, and it's got to go. As well does this thing next to it. However, my donor boards, by the way, this is a point of contention for all of us here. They, fucking supply and demand, they no longer sell full donor boards anymore. They sell garbage that looks like, where are the other touch bar donor boards? Yeah, they sell this. You can't get the whole thing. You can get a wing. They sell it like they do chicken. You know, they used to give you the whole chicken. Then eventually they figured out, oh, we can sell you the wings, thighs, breast, whatever. And now, look, like this, what is it? This is the breasts. Then they sell you the wings separately and all the other stuff separately. So I don't. Yeah, this is my touch bar board. These are the donor boards that I got. Look at this. Look at this useless garbage. So I'm gonna have to find components looking through the books. And Paul, being smarter and more prepared than me on almost everything, decided to buy these beautiful resistor books, so I should be able to find a resistor in here that actually fits. So I need a resistor of 5% tolerance or lower, 1/20th of a watt or higher, and 201 in size, that's 0 ohms. So I have a 0201 here, 1%, that's 0 ohms, and I can happily solder that there. So first thing to do is find a solder pad, because this does not look like a solder pad anymore. This looks like junk. Do a little bit of scraping. This is where zooming is going to come in handy. I'm going to zoom in a little more. Refocus. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Scrape your pads. Okay, We're going to do a little bit of cleaning with a Q-tip and some alcohol. We're going to make this a nice, happy little board. Paul, what am I doing wrong? Paul? Fucking piece of shit. Fucking piece of shit. Fucking piece of shit. I have no patience for those crappy alcohol dispensers. Let's try another one. See? There we go. Ah. Sorry. That thing, those annoy the fuck out of me. These things. Like, there's nothing more annoying than an alcohol dispenser that won't shoot alcohol.
That doesn't dispense.
I hate those things. Okay.
You didn't know I was the employee?
So that capacitor there actually looks pretty good. I'm thinking the only issue that we may have had is with the resistor. I didn't even tin the leads of that capacitor. Notice that they're not even tinned. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on the fume extractor so we don't inhale any of this. And this touch bar that I managed to grab out of the pile randomly may actually only have an issue with one single resistor. This touch bar that I grabbed randomly has only a single bad resistor. Are you watching Taylor Swift?
Yes, always.
You always have Taylor Swift on. Randomly. I did not open this beforehand. I am ethical and moral. But then I managed to rip one of the pads off by being an idiot. And now I'm going to fix what I broke by being an idiot. So we're going to put a resistor that's slightly bigger than the original size there. We're going to go with one that's a little bit longer. You can't go wrong with a piece that's a little bit longer. Or that's what I hear. So we're going to fit a 0402 resistor into that space. Hey, everybody's going to mess up sometimes. What do you want from me? If I mess something up, I'm going to make it right. I'm going to fix it. Make sure you're structurally sound. I'm going to push on this thing really hard. I'm going to push on this piece, the long piece, really hard. It helps if you have a longer piece that you push really hard. Okay? And I'll clean up this dumpy area over here. All right. This is the computer. I'm just going to cover the field where the name would be. I hit restart. And it has already booted up. And I'm covering their name just so you don't see the name and, stalk them and be freaky and all that. We're going to type in their password, which is password. Mighty secure you. I appreciate that you got good taste in passwords just like me. And it's booting. Look at that. The bar went all the way up very quickly. It's booted into the desktop. And we can see an adorable little doggy. So this is way better than before, because before it was taking forever to boot up into that. And I'll actually boot up into the other operating system just so that we could see what the temperature readings are in a moment. All right, we click. And I'm getting... All right, the heat pipe says 30 Celsius. The airport sensor is still measuring 129 Celsius. So that's going to cause us some problems. And also, it's not registering the fan speed. However, it's not lagging anymore. I can actually do things. This is working as a computer. Look, I can click, and it just works. I can click here, and it works. I can click here, and it brings things up. So the airport proximity being that high is not a serious problem, but it's still a problem that I need to resolve if I'm actually going to charge money and have any sense of personal dignity. So let's figure out airport proximity. Airport proximity was that X100 thing, right? U5820 is hopefully not on the other side of the board. U5820 is right here. So we have this big Wi-Fi chip. That's the big Wi-Fi chip. Then next to the big Wi-Fi chip, we're going to have two diagonal capacitors. And over here, we've got 2 diagonal capacitors. Let me just unplug the battery again. It appears this board does not have a U5820. What? How the fuckery? Really? There's no U5820. It's not there. Why are you not there? Where are U5820? Where's U5820? Place U5820 near X100. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, it says place it near X100. Does X100 show up in the schematic? No. Wrong model? Nope. This is an 820-00239. So my sensor that failed is a sensor that's not even on the board. What are the chances that Wi-Fi proximity doesn't even matter?
It's not on the Wi-Fi module?
Yeah, this where the sensor is supposed to be. Yeah, the Wi-Fi module is built in. So this is the Wi-Fi proximity sensor right here. Take a look. Look it up. This is it. U5820.
That's a good sensor. That's very sensitive.
Let's see what the donor board looks like.
What machine?
820-00239 13-inch touch bar.
No.
What yours is a soldered on Wi-Fi chip too, right?
Yeah.
Does it have a sensor chip next to it?
There's a bunch of missing stuff there.
All right. The donor board does not have it. All right, so the donor board doesn't have it either. So what's really important here is that it's working quickly. It's lot lagging. Now, the computer does think that the airport card is 129 Celsius. However, that's apparently because the airport sensor is not on the motherboard. Thank you, Apple, for marking it no stuff in your schematic. Let's just take a look and see if they were nice enough to mark it no stuff in the schematic to not drive the people fixing it crazy. Think different, you... It's not marked no stuff. It even gives you a placement note on where to place it. I hate touch bars. Flip the board, look on the other. Yeah. It's reading, so 129 Celsius is not a real temperature. For those of you who are not aware, in the older MacBooks, if a sensor could not be read, it would view it at minus 124 Celsius. Here, it reads 129 Celsius apparently when there's no sensor present. When the sensor that was not working was not getting 3 volts, when that sensor was completely off, no voltage to it, it was giving us 129 Celsius. So that seems to be what we're getting when a sensor is not viewed. Now, the good news here is that, as I showed you, the machine works, it boots fast, it's able to switch between applications, and everything is fixed the way that it should be when the sensor for the right side heat pipe is fixed. That's good. That works. Would I like Wi-Fi sensor to work? Yes. Are Wi-Fi sensors included on the board? No. Did Apple document that? No. Why? Of course. Why would they document that? Why make anybody's life easier? Why allow us to... Why not give a... I don't know. I'm losing it. I need to eat my food. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. That's how you fix a slow touch bar. That is how you diagnose the sensor issue. That is how you determine whether it's a sensor issue and how you find out which sensor it is even when you don't have access to Apple's diagnostic software. I'm going to eat my lunch before I pass out. And as always, I hope you learned something. Rage quit, and I'll see you tomorrow.